transacted this, when he made this transaction, the position of law was like this, that even if he holds them for more than 12 months, it would constitute long-term capital asset. And under that interpretations, if he has sold those assets, then where would he go? Because this provision is to take effect from assessment year 2015-16. So probably some representation will have to be given to the finance minister. At least maybe you may be sovereign, but then you cannot catch a person off. You cannot catch a person on the wrong, and particularly when he was not wrong, when a particular transaction is taken place, and by doing it, you are doing nothing but this is also a way to tax retrospective. May not be called retrospective in that sense, but then the effect is that you are taxing a particular transaction which has been done under particular circumstances, and those circumstances, you being sovereign, and you have changed. The next proposal is to grant investment allowance to manufacturing sector. Of course, the government is quite concerned about the lackluster growth of manufacturing sector. Service sector in India has grown reasonably well because probably there was a gap, and in all these years the gap has been filled. But then the service sector cannot grow beyond a point unless the real growth into the manufacturing sector is there. So last year section 32 capital AC was introduced, but then that was also introduced in a very half-hearted measure. And half-hearted measure was that in case you make investment into the plant and machinery, first of all you have to be a company. But that condition remains even for the proposed amendment also. So you have to be a company. If you make investment which should be minimum 100 crores in 2 years, then you are entitled to claim investment also to the extent of 15% of the interest which you make. But unless you give this kind of impetus to small and medium-sized industries, you can't see the growth into the capital goods side. Our income tax act is used as a fiscal tool. Wherever government wants to channelize the resources in the desired sector, it devises the incentive and disincentive schemes accordingly. So when the government finds that the manufacturing sector is not growing at a pace at which it should, so our income tax act as usual is being used as a fiscal tool. But then if you want to use that fiscal tool, then make it effective fiscal. But then the proposal which is introduced this time is that the investment maybe in 1 year. Of course, this scheme is available up to 31 of 2017. And the investment in plant and machine is more than 25 lakhs. Then the investment allowance at the rate of 15% is admissible. And of course, it is over and above the normal depreciation and the additional depreciation. So, normal depreciation 15%, additional depreciation 20%, and then 50%. 15% of this investment allowance. And investment allowance will not go to reduce the actual cost in order to arrive at the written down value. So, this is also there. It will be treated as part of the business profits or business deduction, and in case there is a loss, then of course like any other loss it will be carried forward tax years. Of course, that sunset clause for the power sector has been enhanced. It was being given live on year-to-year basis, which is not a very prudent fiscal policy, and therefore this government has extended the sunset clause for the power sector till 31st March 2017. And if any power generating company commences the power generation or distribution then they can avail the deductions under Section 80IA. Of course, raising of the basic exemption limit or limits under Section 80C, I mean, it was needed in the sense that if you remember the direct tax code as it was originally, it provided a very attractive tax brackets and the basic exemption limit was very attractive, but then government probably would not act upon this. So the expectations this time was that there would be basic exemption limit to begin with from 3 lakhs of rupees, but then probably there were financial constraints. Our Prime Minister also said that our coffers are empty. We'll have to work with, we'll have to treat with caution. But whatever incentives have been given under Section 80C or for that matter under Section 24, 50,000 each, it should please to small taxpayers, and it should please to even those taxpayers whose income fall into 30% tax bracket. And all these 3 concessions which have been or which are proposed by the government should give enough reason for average taxpayers to be happy. More money will remain in the hands of the taxpayers. Of course, there will be pressure on consumption because the government is grappling with a trade-off whether to achieve growth or to contain inflation. Because whenever there is a growth, inflation is inevitable. So you will have the trade-off. More money in the hands of the taxpayers will push the consumption, and unless you improve the supply side, the inflation monster will keep on staring in your face. But under 80C, that investment needs to be boosted up because ultimately funds, when are mocked by the government gets free hand to channelize them in the desired sector. And this increase of 50,000 in the limit of Section 80C from the economics point of view, from the country's economics point of view, I think is a welcome measure. But then there is a one measure which is proposed in this finance bill and which is really disheartening. Because this approach of the government to mop up savings on the one hand under Section 80C by increasing the limit, but on the other hand by making certain provision in Section 54E. They are counter to each other. Now under Section 54EC, if there was a capital gain, SSC invests within 6 months in specified bonds, and bonds are NHI bond and rural electrification bond probably. So if capital gain happens say in October or November, where the 6 months period elapses in 2 financial years, and if an SSC by taking the advantage of this kind of the frame of law was claiming deduction under Section 54EC to the extent of rupees 1 crore by making investment 50 lakhs in this financial year, 50 lakhs in another financial year, what was so big about it? What was so big about it? After all, by taking the taxes, you will also spend into the desired sectors. So when you are getting in this manner in certain types of transactions which have taken place into a particular time frame into the financial year, the investment to the extent of 1 crore of rupees instead of 50 lakhs, what was so big about it? Could the government not be magnanimous? So that is why I said that there are certain imprints in this finance bill which speak so loudly as if they are the imprints of the erstwhile finance minister. Because such kind of tuchaman, I mean, could have been done, or it could have been done by the bureaucrats who are sitting. It is not wrong. After all, you assume the charge in May. You cannot wish all those bureaucrats away overnight, because after all, they were already seized for 10 months or 14 months into the budget making preparation. So probably somebody who is very small at heart, who was involved in this budget making process, probably was there. So 50 policy is sought to be amended to say that the maximum reduction which can be there cannot exceed 50 lakhs rupees. So that kind of a loophole you can say, or whatever, but then it was win-win situation for everybody. There was no loser. Government was also not loser. I do not know under what advice or what kind of thinking the government has altered or tweaked the rule of Section 54A. But now a maximum investment which can be there is 50 lakhs rupees. Dividends received by the foreign companies, 15% tax rate, but then it was being done on year-to-year basis. At least the policies or the law should be for a medium term, so that the people can plan it. Section 115 BBD, which provides for the concessional tax of 15%, in case the Indian company receives dividend from outside, from a concern in which it has got more than 26% stake. So this has been now extended for an unlimited period, meaning thereby there is no sunset clause and this concession of 15%. Because what do we need? Let there be more foreign exchange which should come. Let Indian companies not retain their earnings outside India. Let them receive them by way of a dividend, so that our offers on the foreign exchange, they are filled, and at the same time the government should get some tax, and therefore 15% tax if the government gets. This is a good proposal. Now, characterization of income in case of foreign institutional investors. Now, this is a stepmotherly treatment which is sought to be given to the foreign institutional investors. Rather, I would say stepmotherly treatment to the domestic investors. Rather, they have been given. Now, they have been given the clarity. Now, foreign institutional investors, they may be called investors, but then the way they invest is very aggressive. And by low standards, can that be called as an investment? When you make investments, maybe under the SEBI guidelines, but the way you conduct your affairs, it smacks of as if you are carrying on a business. And therefore the litigation was looming large, whether this income should be taxed as business income or this income should be taxed as investment income under that capital gain. And in fact, this kind of dilemma, even the domestic investors are facing. We are facing day in and day out umpteen number of cases at the level of the tribunal, I can say for me, and in the High Court, where the dispute is whether this income can be treated to be this trading income or it can be said to the income which is charged under the capital gain. Because the attempt of the SS is to show that he is an investor, and therefore if he has held a share even for less than a year, then he should be entitled to concessional tax rate as prescribed under Section 100, that is 15%. In case of the foreign institutional investors, the definition of capital asset has been changed to provide that in case of the foreign institutional investors, even if these investments are their stock in trade, then also it will be treated as income under the head capital gain, because they will constitute capital asset. And capital asset when transferred give rise to the income which is charged under the capital gain only. So I would say that the foreign domestic investors have been given a step motherly, have been shown cold shoulder, and I wish that some kind of clarity should have come. Because the board would say, I know day after tomorrow I am speaking in income tax appellate tribunal with senior of income tax appellate tribunal bar association, senior officers are coming. I know what will be their response. They will say, we have laid the guidelines, we have issued circulars from time to time, in which we have given the parameters. Sir, नमस्कार. आइए सर. गुरुजी साहब का स्वागत है. I know the reply which will come from the higher authorities who are responsible for making this kind of law is that we have given several parameters in the circulars which we have issued, and those parameters are those which have been laid down by the Supreme Court in Sri Venkata Swami's case in 35 ITR, as well as 35 ITR. Therefore, the law should be clear. But then, if you read those parameters are such, which are capable of being interpreted either. On the one hand, you say that if you hold shares for less than 12 months, like that's why I am talking about the law which is proposed here. If you hold the shares, like in case of the listed shares, let me take it. If you hold shares for less than 12 months, now that will give rise to short-term capital gain. But then in the same breath, you want to say that the departmental authorities say, oh, you have been very brisk in dealing with these shares. You have held them for 5 days or 10 days or 15 days or 20 days. Therefore, you will be treated to be carrying it as business. And therefore, I will not give you advantage of consensual tax under section 111. Now, assessing officer so holds, and by holding so, he throws the assessee into the rigmarole of the litigation. And once in our country litigation starts, then the persons like me, and of course you also, happen to prosper. But be that as it may, I am not on the micro aspect, but then this clarity which is sought to be handed out to the foreign institutional investors, it should have come for the domestic investors also, so that this kind of litigation, whether it will be charged under the head business income or it will be taxable, charging tax under the income from investment, it should have been taken. Yes, there is anti-tax avoidance measure, and there cannot be no two opinions that tax avoidance measure should be put in their place. Forfeited advance. Advance received by a person holding a capital asset, forfeited. Now, section 51 granted Supreme Court decision in 7 courts 243 idea used to say that it will not constitute taxability. Section 51 says that it will go to reduce the cost of asset, and whenever you happen to transfer that asset in future, now its reduced cost will be taken into account for calculating the capital. If that advance was given by a person who was into the trading of the real estate, he used to claim his business loss. So it was a win-win situation for both. The developer, all those real estate dealers, they used to claim this as a reduction against the business profit, and the person who was receiving and holding this asset as capital asset, was enjoying into the shadow of section 51 and into the shadow of the Supreme Court decision. So much so, the amount of advance which was forfeited was many times more than the actual cost. But then the law was like this. The law was interpreted by the Supreme Court like this. And rather, in one of the cases where the department wanted to take the negative cost as the cost in case the property was subject matter of transfer in future years, then the tribunal interpreted the cost cannot be negative. So, a person who has forfeited the advance, उसके तो दोनों हाथों में चारों हाथों में लड्डू. He was not liable to tax. He was not liable to pay tax with reference to the amount which he has forfeited. Even if this amount forfeited exceeded much more than the amount of the actual cost. On this pretext that the cost cannot be negative, because in case he happens to sell it, the cost used to take it zero. So probably in order to, because after all this kind of practice was in vogue for quite some time. And before the government takes cognizance of anything, it takes time, because the government cannot react in a knee-jerk manner. So proposals are made and it takes its own time, and probably the time has come. And section 56 I sought to be amended to say that in case of a capital asset the subject to negotiation, advance was received and forfeited, and that negotiation has not resulted into the transfer of capital asset, then this could constitute income. But as section 56 is applicable in case of individual and HUF, section 56 is applicable in case of individual HUF, and it has been put under section 56(2)(9). Therefore, 56(2)(9). So it has to be seen. Let me see. I have not seen it whether it will be applicable. 56(2)(7). 56. Yeah, it will be applicable for everybody. It will be applicable for everybody. But then an amendment is proposed section 51 also, where it has been taxed under section 56(2)(9). Then it will not go to reduce the cost of another. Of course, there cannot be double whammy. So in order to avoid double taxation, that kind of curative provision is paid. Now under section 40AI, now that section is something which has really stirred the conscience of right thinkers. Now when 40IA was introduced in 2005, a very funny rationale was given, and that rationale was on this line, that the existing provisions for the enforcement of the TDS are not adequate. I am at loss to understand if those provisions are not adequate, then what do you want? And you have got section 201 in which you can hold a person assessed in default. You can recover the amount of tax from him. You can impose interest, which is interest at the rate of 15% or 18%. When you pay, it is 6% or 8%, but when it comes to the recovery, you recover 15 to 18%, as if your money is costlier than that of mine. But then, again, this kind of discrimination probably we have endured on the ground. The sovereign can do anything. They can do anything and can get away most of the time by doing anything. You have got section 221, which enables the income tax officer, in case of a person who has been assessing default, to levy penalty to the extent of the amount of tax which is in default. Then you have got section 271 capitals, that you can impose penalty to the extent of the amount which has not been deducted or which has been short deducted. So you have got how many weapons in an armory, and then you say that the existing provisions on the aspects of the TDS and its are not adequate. And on this pretext, you want to do the grave violence to the established canon of taxation. The principle of taxation, as I have been taught as a student of public finance, is that the good taxation system is one where the real income and the taxable income are as close as possible. But you see the provisions like 43B and the provisions like 40AI or 40AIE, they ensure that the taxable income and the real income are poles apart. So if a person has not deducted tax, say 2%, out of the contractor's payment, section 40IA mandates that the entire amount which you have paid to the contractors, even if it is the most legitimate business expenditure, now would be disallowed. What kind of law are we making? Government realizes the hardships year after year. Last year, in 2012 or 2013, in 2012, they brought an amendment that in case you obtain a certificate from the chartered accountant or the deductee that he has shown this amount in the return of income that person and the return has been filed and the taxes have been paid, then it will be deemed to have been paid here. And the legislature says it is prospective. It is to take effect from assessment to 13th form. I had an occasion to argue it with the tribunal. I said, on the one hand, you say that this kind of relaxation is being given as a measure to reduce the incidence of hardship. And then you say that incidence of hardship is to be reduced with prospective effect. No. Then it should be treated to have come into effect as if it was there right from the day when the section 40IA was enacted. Like in case of 43B. The employee's contributions, the employer's contributions. Now if it has not been paid, or even if it is paid in days, then the prescribed, then you say you want to say that amount will be disallowed. And I tell you, at that time I had an occasion to argue to the Supreme Court this case in Arome institution in 43B. And you know, Justice Kapadia at that time was not Chief Justice. I argued And you know, against me was Mr. Gopal Subramanian. When I saw him enter into the court against me, either today, he will have his way. But then I said, my lord, I give an illustration. And then I will leave to my lords to interpret. The illustration is that my accountant is going to deposit provident fund. On 15th he meets an accident. Now I come to know that he has met an accident. He could not reach to the bank to deposit. I go to him certainly, but then I snatch the bag. I leave him there. I go to the bank, first of all I deposit that. And I remember he said, is this the law in our country? Is this the law? And yes, not my lord. This is the law. Despite Gilker's recommendation. Hello, okay, don't worry. We'll set it right. And he set it right. So those laws which have been enacted and which in the wisdom of the court were not intended, and therefore certain amendments are brought in order to cure that mischief which was never intended. That is called the hidden rule of mischief. The courts read them as if this mischief is sought to be remedied by the legislature from the day when the mischief itself was created. Even if the legislature says in very many words that it has to come into effect from such perspective. Now similarly, in this year, the finance minister says that this 100% disallowance is creating hardship. I do not know who has briefed him. Why? The disallowance per se was creating hardship. Because you cannot change the rule of the game just like that. If the taxable income has to be computed having regard to the actual system of accounting, then any other system of accounting which you want to introduce, you introduce at the cost of complete the gross hierarchy and the violence to the well-established principles of exchange. Now if you don't deduct, deduction will not be allowed. I mean, probably are we living in Afghanistan? So he says, instead of 100%, I propose that disallowance though will be made, but then it will be restricted to the extent of 30%. Why only 30%? What is the rationale? If I fail to deduct 2% out of the contractor's payment, what is the rationale of making the disallowance 30%? You disallow 6%, then I can understand. Approximately, if you want to find some rationale. But you see, as an advocate, now I practice as a lawyer, as an advocate you want to challenge such kind of obnoxious provision before the court, you don't get the sympathy from the court. The court says, oh, why this provision has been brought? This has been brought in order to enforce a compliance. Oh, we have water tax evaders. Therefore, since this provision has been brought in order to enforce the compliance, therefore we should not interfere. The courts withdraw their hands like that. Anyway, so this 30% disallowance which is now there, now corporate social responsibility. Now this is an expenditure though it is not mandatory as of now. But then in times to come it will be mandatory. Today it is recommendatory, but then the government says that we want you to shoulder the responsibility. It is not the exclusive responsibility of the government to shoulder the responsibility to corporate, to social responsibility. Therefore, the corporate should come and burden this responsibility. But then, if you want that we should subsidize it by allowing you to claim it as a business expenditure, we will not do it. Because government says this is an appropriation, even if it is a mandate under the law. But then, if you have got this contributions towards the corporate social responsibility, if you contribute in such a way that if it can be brought within the ambit of section 30 to 36, like if you contribute to a trust or institution or association which qualifies under section 35 AC, then it will fulfill both the conditions. You are entitled to claim it under section 35 AC or 80GA, and at the same time your corporate social responsibility which you have discharged, now that is there. So you have to devise ways and means to claim it under section 30 to 36, so that this explanation under section 37 should not stay at your face. So this is an exit route, or you can give donations. You can give donations to Prime Minister National Relief Fund, because Prime Minister National Relief Fund is one of the avenues which has been recognized under the